Hey guys, and welcome back to Voicey here. Entitled parents think that they can do whatever they want, including kicking you out of the home just because you had a seizure. Yeah, that's right. Alright, let's see how crazy today's EPs can get. My calm speaking voice is ready. Let's go. Don't forget, Voicey veterans, to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called Entitled Mum Says My 7-Year-Old Isn't Allowed to Mourn Her Grandfather Anymore. Ruins 7th birthday. My dad died on the winter solstice 2016. We're pagan and celebrate Yule instead of Christmas. It was a very sudden heart attack in his sleep, though I'm not convinced he didn't purposefully overdose and cause it himself. My oldest was 6 at the time, and my dad was her best friend. It hit us all very hard, and I was struggling to help my daughter through her first real loss while mourning myself. My mum decided to self-medicate with crack and whiskey, ironically what my father used to overdose. She kept making promises to my daughter about spending time together. Being 6, she was suddenly terrified that she would lose my mum too, and then bailing last minute, always to go to a party or hang out at the bar. She said this was her grieving. I said it was her spiraling, but she refused to seek help. Mental stability was not a priority in that household, ever. Here's where the entitlement comes into play. Less than 2 months after his death, my mum starts dating a new man. By February, she told my 6-year-old that grandma had a new man friend. She didn't tell me. I got to hear about it through my 6-year-old's tears. She felt like grandma was replacing Pop Pop. Even if it isn't the case, the relationship was new and the kid was still grieving. She didn't need to know about grandma's new relationship yet, but my mom disagreed. She said she has the right to tell her granddaughter whatever she wanted. We got into heated argument after argument about boundaries and my daughter's right to mourn. My mother said, "You need to support me on this." I informed her, like she did when I came out of the closet, that no, I don't have to support you, but I do have to accept you. She accused me of demanding she break up with her boyfriend because a child threw a tantrum. I told her she was welcome to live her life, but she didn't need to involve my daughter in every aspect of it. A few months went by of my mother constantly trying to force her new boyfriend into my daughter's life. She would ask to take my daughter somewhere to spend time together. I would ask if her boyfriend would be joining them. I had to turn her down several times after asking my daughter if she was comfortable enough to get to know him. She was not. Each time my mother would scream at me about ruining her life and impeding on her grief. She was in mourning. How could I treat her this way? My daughter's 7th birthday rolls around, and we get ready for a family party held in our backyard. I specifically told my mum that she was invited, but her boyfriend was not. This was a 7-year-old's party. Birthday girl made the guest list, and it is no place for drama. Well, guess what she does? Not only does my mother bring her new boyfriend, oh no. Turns out the poor guy had just had a stroke or something and needed assistance walking. He temporarily needed a walker, and the party was through the grass to the backyard. My mother left her date to fend for himself at the side of the road and strode into the party area with a look of absolute triumph that didn't make sense at first. Then I saw him come around the corner, a man I didn't recognize and could only be one person. On either side of him were my in-laws, holding his arms to help him along the grass. They didn't know him either, but they saw him struggling in the front yard and decided to help him make it to the backyard. The moment my daughter saw him, she started to sob. Seeing just my mum without my dad was hard on her enough at the moment. Seeing another man in the place where Pop Pop is supposed to be broke her. She ran inside to her room, and before I could get someone to cover the grill for me, my mum chased after her. I found them in her room, my daughter trying to pull away from my mum, and my mum hugging her tight and muttering in her ear. Something inside me just snapped. I knew that position well. She was being told she is a selfish child for having emotions. I jerked my mum away from my child and pulled her into the other room where the yelling began. "She needs to learn to get over this." "She's 7, mother. This is hard for her." "You're being so mean to me. I just lost my husband." "And she just lost her grandfather. We're all hurting, Mum. I told you he wasn't welcome. She wasn't ready to see him." "Well, he's already here, so there's nothing she can do but get over it." "You need to leave." "You can't kick me out." "This is my house. Now leave." She didn't go quietly. Everyone at that party knew she was thrown out by my own daughter. I'm just here to celebrate with my grandchild. When she was finally gone, I hugged my still sobbing 7-year-old and asked her what Grandma said exactly. She said I can't be sad anymore because he was just my grandpa, but he was her husband, so I can't be sadder than Grandma. My stomach churned, and I was suddenly very sorry I didn't pop my mother across the face before she left. I can't say I would ever advocate for violence as a solution, but I'm sure we could all sympathize with the emotion. Imagine telling your own grandchild, yeah, you can't be sad because I loved him more than you did. Yes, you are technically right, that person had a more significant relationship to you than the grandchild did, but you can't say that to a child. This is the first time they've gone through a significant loss. Maybe the person wasn't as close to them as they were to you, but this is probably the first time they're realizing we live in a broken world where people die. People you care about die. That's one of those moments where your whole worldview gets changed. So I can't say violence would have been a good response, but definitely getting her out of there was the right thing to do. This story was called Entitled Parents Think They Own the Ski Lift at a Major Resort, but Karma Gets Its Way. Long ago, when I was but a wee lad, so like a couple of months ago, I was skiing with a friend at a resort quite close to my home in the vastness of the universe. But that is beside the point of this story, so I'll dive right into it. My friend and I had decided to take a break from our studies at University of Redacted in Redacted and go on a pleasant ski trip to Redacted. What fun. We had skied most of the day with fair weather, fresh snow, and a few lift lines. Unfortunately, there is one lift that is cursed, for lines plague this lift each and every hour of the 8-hour ski day. The dreaded T-bar. The terror of the beginner skier. Anyways, we pizza stopped our way to the back of the line and waited our turn like any pair of gentlemen would. During this wait, I glanced at the sign in the queue ahead and noted it said alternate in very large red letters. This sign is of great importance to the story, so please take note. Anyways, as we wait, a group of 3, a large man in a blue 80s style ski jacket with the most appalling yellow boots, a woman with 3 braids of hair sticking from the back of her studded motorcycle helmet, and a child who appeared quite young and seemingly unready to partake in the conquest known as the T-bar, come skiing down the slope. This strange group approached from our left, nonchalantly ducked under the rope indicating the formation of the line, literally pushed my friend backwards, and took place directly in front of us as a group of 3. Now, I'm not sure how much any of you dear readers know of T-bars, but they can only seat 2. So my friend and I are perplexed over this turn of events, and I grow more and more frustrated as we progress. So to alleviate my growing anger, I say, "Excuse me, I believe you cut in line. The back is near the back." As if the back could not be any clearer. 80s daredevil wannabe dad. "Shut the frick up." Heavily accented with a deep southern twang. Yeah, I think I got that right. My friend, "How about you shut the F up and wait your turn?" The group did not reply, but the entitled leather-clad mother looked back at us and gave us the mitten. By that we think she may have been trying to flip us off, but found it difficult to do in mittens. We progressed. My friend and I talking very loudly about entitled people and amateur skiers, blah blah blah. Then it came time to alternate with the line next to us. 2 lines filled with people become 1, each line switching off. So naturally the entitled gang skis right over the skis of the woman whose turn it was and off into the now singular line. This woman, who we will call Marjorie, because that's a dope name and she was a dope lady, tells them off and the crusty 80s macho man gives his classic response. Marjorie turns to us and asks, "Are they in ski school?" They must be. Ski schoolers have a special line to bypass the standard crowds, but only under direct supervision of a ski instructor. They must be. However, they probably just paid more for their lift tickets than we did. They didn't. We all pay the same amount. Marjorie laughs and we proceed to have a nice conversation about how idiotic the people in front of us are. Very loudly. Perhaps to the extent of overreaction, but hey, we were having fun. The time comes for the gang of first pancakes, get it? Because the first pancake always looks like trash, gets on the T-bar. But wait, you can't have 3 people on a single bar. So the dad scoops up his child and holds them. This is a no-no. The lift operators stop the lift and ask that they separate accordingly. So Miss Triple Braid Mum scoots back so she can take the following bar up the mountain alone. The operators turn the lift back on and the bar swoops in and is placed on the child's lower back. Now this bar is perfectly leveled for the small child, but it barely comes to the father's mid-thighs. So not only is he stooped over like a gorilla, but he is now terribly off balance. The woman catches her bar just fine and seems comfortable, but as the hunchback of Mississippi, aka the yellow-booted cookie monster, is carried up the mountain, his position looks more and more precarious. It is worth mentioning at this point, my friend and I are securely holding onto the bar and being carried up the mountain behind Marjorie and her companion. So, the fall. This is wonderfully terrible in so many ways. I will try my best to explain this in perfect detail. The father compensates for the bar by hunching forward, meaning his center of mass is forward. The ski's bindings can only hold so much weight. Crack! The binding released the boots, as any safe binding should, and the man falls on his face into the snow, his feet swinging up into the air. Some of you may know this fall to be called a scorpion, and his skis slide backwards down the slope, parallel for some time before careening off into the adjacent slopes. The mother, in a desperate attempt to avoid her face-planted partner, swerves rightward and ends up with her skis stuck in a rut. She immediately loses balance and tumbles to the side, still holding on to the bar. Her husband, who is now sliding downward, grabs her by the leg as she passes to the right. She holds for a second or two until she too falls, and now the two of them are sliding downwards towards Marjorie, who gives out a resounding "for frick's sake" as her and her companion tumble over the pair of line cutters. My friend and I decide to get off here to avoid the calamity ahead. From the sidelines, we watch as the mess of people grows larger and larger as people look for lost skis, lost poles, and lost dignities. From here, my friend and I leave, but not before I notice the one person who made it through the gargantuan-sized mess, the child of the entitled parents, casually being pulled up the slope, glancing backward at the mess their parents had caused. It's at that point you start to ask, was I born into the wrong family? Is there some way I can get a refund here? Do I need like a receipt for that or something? It's always nice when there's that little dose of karma in one of these stories. Especially line cutters, because it's like, hey, there's a system here for a reason, guys. This story's called EM Tries to Get Me Fired After I Won't Give Her Kid an Award He Didn't Earn. For background, I used to work at a summer camp as a counselor and as the director of the archery range. One of the things campers had the opportunity to do was sign up for merit badges, including one for the archery program. The requirements were to pass a short written exam and to show that their shooting skills had improved. Because it was summer, and because some kids struggled with tests, I would offer to provide any assistance they might want. I was willing to do anything short of giving them the answers or doing the test for them. The only caveat to this was if they refused my help, then I would leave them to their own devices because there were other kids who did want it. During one session, a 14-year-old boy, who we'll call Colby, signed up for the badge. By the end of the first archery period, I could tell he was going to have trouble with the exam. I made an offer to help him, and he turned me down. Fast forward to the end of the week. The exam is administered and he bombs it, so he doesn't get the badge. After the closing ceremony, he comes up to me demanding to know why. I explain that he didn't pass half the requirements. After trying to argue with me about it, he storms off. About 10 minutes later, he comes back, with his mummy in tow. She asks me the same question and I give her the same answer. She then goes into a tirade about how her son is a golden child and deserves to have everything. As she's doing this, Colby is standing behind her, wearing a smug look, while I'm trying to decide if I'm actually hearing this, and trying not to laugh in this woman's face. When she finishes, I tell her it's fine if she believes all this, but I'm still not going to give him the badge because it wouldn't be fair to the other kids. Seeing how their expressions changed was priceless. She tells me that she's going to talk to my boss about it. I tell her that if she feels that's necessary, then fine, but I'm pretty sure they'll agree with me. A short while later, I see both of them come speed walking out of my boss's office with anger written all over them. I go into the office, my boss spots me, smiles, and gives me a thumbs up. It's good to know that not everyone still believes in the whole, well, everybody should get a participation trophy because you wouldn't want to make anybody sad. But you know what's really sad? Is that if everybody gets an award no matter what effort they put into it, then really the awards mean nothing, do they? This story is called Entitled Parent Threatened to Kick Me Out After I Have a Seizure. So before I start getting to the actual experience here, I should provide some background information so this hits harder. First of all, I'm a 20-year-old type 1 diabetic since I was 2 years old. I'm also an epileptic since I was about 10. Now, I am also diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which weirdly enough shows the symptoms for my diabetes and epilepsy. Basically, if I'm anxious or depressed, it'll either show up in my blood sugar with spikes or drops, or just have an epileptic seizure, despite taking meds. Now, my mother is on a different level of uniqueness. She's been a paraplegic since her 20s, and while she has a service dog to help her with everything, she'll force me awake at like 6 in the morning to help her with literally anything she can think of, even though her dog can do it. I go upstairs probably about 20 times a day, ranging from cleaning to baking. Now, since my diseases, it's not safe for me to have a job, as it actually causes me to have seizures at work. This is important because for the past few months, my mother is either forcing me to take like 4 university classes or get a full-time job. Basically, she's sentencing me to endless seizures, which if I fall the wrong way, I could get brain damage, break my neck or skull, or even kill myself. Today's was the worst. I had a seizure this morning, and when my boyfriend practically revived me, crying from stress, he took me upstairs, explaining that I had a seizure. This is the conversation. I didn't even make it up the stairs before she started ranting at me and blaming me for everything, and saying that because of this seizure, I had to get them under control or she was going to kick me out, even though I had no money, nor can I work. I also can't get into disability yet because of this whole virus thing. I had to leave because she can't do this anymore. My boyfriend pulled me away downstairs and told her off, but she still ranted. But he ended with, "What the frick? Your son just had a seizure and has hit his head, and you're making it about yourself?" Her response was to F off, planning on moving out with him to my sister's for a while, but this is my daily life so far. Unfortunately, some people are just dealt a worse hand than others. I mean, you would hope that if someone was in this situation where they had these medical conditions, that at the very least they would have some compassionate people around them to help them through it. The real cherry on top is when you've got an entitled parent that makes it all that much more worse. Thanks for tuning into the show today, and I will see you tomorrow. Submit your story to be read on the channel at voiceyherestories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright, Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.